RtI. So those letters might not mean anything to you right now, but hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will know. So MTSS does stand for Multi-Tiered System of Supports, and the RtI portion of my title stands for Response to Intervention. So, thank you for coming tonight. And like she said, hopefully I can answer any questions that you have at the end or throughout in the chat box. And, please let me know if there's anything else I can do for you in the future as well. So today we are kind of just doing a brief overview of the problem-solving process that we use in Hillsborough County Public Schools, and also the multi-tiered system of supports, which kind of is a long way of saying a variety of different interventions and instruction and supports that we give students. So I'm going to get a little bit more into that, but you've probably heard in the past, if I saw there were some pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, all different ages in the chat of what your children attend, but you may have heard the term response to intervention, or RtI. You may have heard a term such as positive behavior intervention and supports, or PBIS. These are all different frameworks that fall under the umbrella of MTSS. So, we're kind of going to go into a little bit more of this as we go through, but I just kind of wanted to give that background. So MTSS is really the integration of all kinds of different things that fall under the umbrella, and it's focused on achieving better outcomes for all students. So the purpose of this overview is to really increase, to have mutual understanding between families, school district, community members, so we're all on the same page, and we all have one thing in common, which is we all want all students to be successful in school and in life, which is the goal of having a multi-tiered system of supports in our school district. Okay. A form of this presentation has been used that was originally developed by the Florida Department of Education, but it's been adapted several times, and then I have redone it this year with our new information. But a lot of these pieces come from the Florida Department of Education, so I just wanted to kind of put that on here in collaboration with some other groups with families as well. Okay, so a little bit more about MTSS, which again, it stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support. So it's really a term to describe the integration of all different types of supports and instruction and interventions that we provide for students. So this can include attendance, things that we do to help with attendance and student engagement, academics, course performance, behavior, social emotional, all of those different things, and all the approaches that we use to help students in those areas all fall under this multi-tiered system of supports. It's related to using data, and I'll get into that a little bit later too, but data to inform what instruction or what interventions or what supports we give to students, and that means support for all students. So even students who are on all different levels in all of these areas, there's enrichment or instruction or intervention that kind of relates to their needs, and that's what this system is designed to do. It's within a multi-tiered system of supports, instruction and intervention is delivered to students at varying levels of intensity. So we use the word tiers, which I'll get into, but that just means different levels of intensity. So, and we use the data based on kind of assessments or behavior data or different things like that to kind of drive who gets what, who needs what, and how we know if things are working or not. All right, so the goals of MTSS are really to provide effective teaching, whether that be in academic things, in behavioral, social, emotional, anything that kind of relates to the student's needs, and that teaching or instruction is related to the needs of each student. We really want to make sure that the classroom environment is the best possible that it can be for every student. The goal is to help all students to meet grade level standards, and to use data to see what students need and be able to provide what they need to them. It's really to support instruction, not to replace or do something different, but to kind of layer on supports for students, and to provide interventions or help that's kind of a part of their education. So we don't have to wait until the student's struggling, but we want to have things in place to prevent things from happening as well, if they are below grade level. Okay. I know this is kind of, we use this in the school district some, and I know it's not the prettiest picture or the most exciting thing, but I wanted to keep it consistent so that you guys are seeing the same thing the district and school people see. This is the four-step structured problem-solving process that all schools are trained on, and that we really try to use in the district to go over a variety of different problems, from district level, school level, classroom, grade, and individual student level, all, in all different areas. So it's really a data-based decision-making process that enables school teams to objectively and systematically address problems and achieve goals. So they use data to kind of go through the different steps. If you move clockwise around the diagram, you'll see the different steps. So the first step is problem ID. What is the problem? What do we want students to know and be able to do? And this is, like I said, in all of those areas. For attendance, how much do we want students to be attending? For behavior, how much do we want them, to be meeting expectations, school-wide expectations, and classroom expectations? All different areas can fall into this. Step 2 is kind of figuring out if there is a problem, why is it happening? Step 3 is designing that instruction or intervention to help with that problem. So what are we going to do about it? And then step 4 is always to see if what we're doing is working or not, which is a huge piece, and that's that response to intervention piece. And if it's not, what are we going to do to change it to help the student better? So, although most children do well in school, some children do need extra help or support in order to be successful. So it could be just in one of the areas that I've mentioned throughout this presentation, or more than one. And even fewer number of students need intense levels of help and support to be successful. So MTSS, or the multi-tiered system of supports that we use in Hillsborough, is a framework that aligns all of our resources that we have at the district and school level to support the learning needs of every child. Regardless of the intensity of supports they may need, we really try to use the data at the school level and district level to figure out what they need and provide that to them. Okay. So like I said, it is multi-tiered system of supports. So what happens is there are 3 tiers, which is kind of like 3 layers of a cake. You can compare it to that. Tier 1 is that bottom layer, that foundation, and that really includes high quality teaching and behavior support that's available for all students in a school. Everyone is exposed to the core or tier 1, that's used interchangeably. And these are not categories of students or stepping stones toward a special education category or anything like that. That tier 1 is really that high quality teaching, like I said, that all students will receive. And then and if that is not working, if a student needs more than that, that's where the next layer of that cake, tier 2, comes on. And that's additional interventions that some students need to help with those more specific skills, so that it's kind of that, it could be a variety of different percentages of students in each school, but some students are going to need a little bit more, right, in those areas that I mentioned before to be able to meet those grade level expectations in those areas. And then if you go even further, the top layer of the cake are those tier 3 interventions. And these tier 3 interventions are the most intense support that we are able to provide in schools, and these are designed to address the unique needs of an individual student. So this is even fewer students that need these most intensive level of supports, but these are kind of if you hear these terms when you're talking with your child's school or any parent-teacher conferences, I did want you to be familiar with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, because I know that sometimes that language is thrown out there, and I want you to be familiar with what that means. So again, that tier 1 is that what everyone gets. Tier 2 is that layer on the cake that some students are going to get in addition to tier 1. And then tier 3 is that top layer of the cake that those students are getting tier 1 instruction, tier 2 support, and then also added on is that tier 3 intensive layer of support. Right. And I did want to say that it's just really important to know that when you're talking about those three tiers that we just talked about, there's no rules or guidelines. It's kind of like a fluid thing. They're really designed. If a student needs something, we want to be able to provide that to them. And that's kind of how that multi-tiered system of supports is supposed to be designed. So, if a student, we have another, let's say it's an academic need, if they have another assessment and then it's found that they need more support in a certain area to get a certain concept, we just provide that support. It's kind of like a fluid thing that designed to meet the unique needs of those students. Okay, so if you ever hear anything related to MTSS or RtI, just kind of things that you should expect throughout the year is our updates on your child's progress. So, thinking about your child in school right now, sometimes you'll get report cards quarterly or progress reports in the middle of each quarter. There are assessments given that are typically 3 times a year in reading and math at all the different levels. A variety of different things that are kind of given us to kind of see how your child is doing along the way, to see what more support your child might need. And that's typically when there's a parent-teacher conference and you kind of go over, like, this is what is available, this is what we're thinking you need, and you are part of that problem-solving process with the teacher to figure out what is best for your child. So all parents are entitled to information on their children's progress so that they can be a partner with teachers to help students succeed. Schools who are implementing MTSS collect data from all students 3 times a year, if not more. And these are, kind of a school-wide diagnostic assessments that you've heard of. iReady is one of the programs in elementary that is used. Achieve 3000 is also used in middle and high. So there's a variety of different things, that are being used to kind of get at this data. Also grades, GPA, exams, things like that. So the school should be sharing this data with you frequently so that you have information about how your child is performing at school, and then so that you also know what is available for them if they are struggling, right? So at the first signs of difficulty or the first times they showed any kind of data that they might be below in a certain area, that's when the help for your child could be increased depending on their needs. So throughout this process, it could be increased or decreased depending on what's happening. But information and involvement from you is a really important piece of this, and it's actually required as a part of this process. If your child is performing below grade level expectations in a certain area, typically teachers would have a parent-teacher conference and kind of go over that information with you, say what interventions might be available at the school level and what you could do at home to help. So that's kind of how they really try to get some support from families. And you're the experts on your child, right? So you are definitely a huge part of this whole MTSS process. Let's see here. Another thing I wanted to go over is that, I definitely think that something that you should expect is to see how your child's responding to those interventions. So, if you have a parent-teacher conference where they're going over, this is what we're going to do, hopefully you guys will plan a follow-up to kind of see, okay, this is what happened, here's how your child has been responding, and what kind of comes next. If it's working or not working, what else can we do? So you're really a part of that decision-making process to see if your child increases or decreases based on their needs, what's kind of happening. So I did want you to know that is a huge part, that you play a big role in that. And, if you ever feel like things aren't going well, that, there are teachers and specialists at schools that can really help use that problem-solving process that we went over a little bit ago to help kind of figure out what the problem is and what we can do about it at the school level. So that is things that should be happening and that you should expect as part of this process. I did want to show you some examples of what this might look like. So, if you get a student report card at the elementary level, I'm going to give some elementary and some secondary levels because I did see there was a mix in the chat. So at the elementary level, you do get a report card each quarter that shows if you're below level, on level. If you can see those arrows pointing to that for reading and math, that kind of shows it's, so we know if they're below level, they do need some of these interventions or support that maybe can help increase their academic skills in that area. So that's where the interventions come into place. Another thing is during the parent-teacher conference, there's typically a line that says response to intervention, number 13 down here on the right. This might be small, I know, on phones or some computers. So, but this arrow is pointing to response to intervention, and that's typically where the teacher would go over, what interventions your child is giving, what they're trying, how the response has been to those, and then also they can hand out some response to intervention progress monitoring data, which the second arrow is pointing to, and that just can show, based on what they've been doing to help, how the child has been responding to that and what that data looks like. Typically that's in some type of graphical form, but it could be related to all kinds of stuff depending on what the area of need is. So it could just be, based on their attendance, they were struggling, with being there every day, and then now they've done a lot better, and kind of showing that over time. That could be one way, or something, a behavior. There could be a classroom behavior chart that they've been using where they've been earning stickers for their behaviors and kind of what that looks like and how many stickers they've been earning and getting better. That's all response to intervention related in each of those areas. A secondary example, you could actually see if there are any interventions being given based on their schedule. So in middle and high school, based on how the students do on certain assessments that are given throughout the year, they're placed in different courses, and those courses are all about interventions. So if your child is in an intensive reading course or an intensive math course, those are all about, or just a reading course in general, that's evidence-based interventions that have shown to be effective to help in the areas of reading and math. And throughout that whole period, every single day, they're getting intervention. So they're on that tiered system, that multi-tiered system of supports. They're getting interventions in those areas. So that's an example for secondary that would really show, that your child is getting the support that they need in those areas. And that's how they're placed into those. Okay. So a lot of times, I've worked this is my 15th year in the district, and I started as a school psychologist in elementary and high school. I've also ran the pre-kindergarten assessment team, so I've done a lot of assessments and evaluations for pre-kindergarten age children and done early intervention for them. So I've been at all different levels, from pre-kindergarten all the way through high school. And a lot of times these are some questions that I've tried to help parents and families to get answers to be able to know what's happening with their children, right? So a lot of times, if some things you might want to know to see if they are in this process or to see how they are doing in school, there's a lot of questions you can ask the teachers, you can ask school counselors, anyone involved with your child at the school. But a big question is, right, how is my child doing well? So I know that's a lot of things. You guys probably asked that many times, if your child has been ever struggling in anything. And how do you know that? So that's with the teacher having that parent-teacher conference, having the teacher show you, like they say they're on level, can show me what that looks like. Like how can I tell that my child's on level? Or if they're below level, how do you know? How can I tell that by looking at this? And they really can go over that data to kind of show, what we're looking at as a school and how we're problem solving around that data to provide support. So, if they're not doing well, why not? A lot of our assessment data will show that as well, and they can explain that to you. And kind of see even what you can do at home to help. What can we do about it at the school level, and what can we do about it in home as well? A lot of times reading at home, and there's little strategies teachers can have happen at home and at school to kind of reinforce those interventions. So that could be additional things. If needed, how is additional help going to be provided at the school? So that could be, who's going to be providing it? How often? What does that look like? When is this occurring for my child? When are they getting the interventions or support? what are they using to do that? How do you know, is it matched to what the need of my child is? And we can explain all of that and throughout this process, and using, like I said, it's a data-based decision-making process, so they can show you the data that shows kind of why they've done different things and offered support for your children. Another question that a lot of parents and families can ask to help be a part of this process is, how can I participate in problem solving about my child? So, I know sometimes you hear, like, this is how your child's doing. But if you want to be involved in that process, which I feel like everyone should, and that's my role as kind of training this year, is to really get that out, that I really want that homeschool collaboration to be pushed, and parents to be a part of that problem solving and decision making team, since they're the experts on their child. So, how can you participate in that? What meetings can you be invited to help with that planning and intervention development? What can I do at home to help with interventions for my child, and how will I know if the interventions are working, which is that response to intervention piece, which we have to monitor to make sure that we're doing everything we can for your child. You're really encouraged to attend and be an active member of any teams that include teachers and specialists who are talking about your children, who are finding solutions by answering the 4 problem-solving questions that we discussed earlier. So, teachers and specialists really value and rely on your input, because you're your child's most knowledgeable expert, and you see them, differently sometimes than what we see at school too. So it gives another piece of the puzzle. Which is really kind of how we can problem solve. We need all the pieces to be able to give the best solution. So these are, like I said, these are some, kind of key questions that might help you, get more involvement and have the teacher be able to explain things better to you too. Okay. This is a question that I often get from parents, and, just as I know my child's struggling, I'm getting this assessment data home, or the teacher's telling me they're having issues. What do I do? If I think my child's struggling, even if no one told me that, if I just think that, or if people have told me that, what can I do? And the biggest thing is talk with your child's teacher. That's the first person, the kind of first line of defense. They are, informally getting information from your children all day long about behavior, academic, social emotional functioning, all different kinds of things that they're seeing all day long. Relationships with peers or friends, all kinds of stuff, problem solving throughout the day. So they can really be that first line to kind of give you information or any updates on any areas of difficulties your children were having, or on anything that's new that's happening, all of that stuff. Asking them, how can I help? How can I understand my child's data better? You sent this home, but what does this mean? And what does this mean? What are my child's strengths and weaknesses? And all, everything that goes along with that. It's really good to celebrate when progress is made, and that's why we like to go over that response to intervention, or that progress. Sometimes you'll hear the words progress monitoring, and that's kind of how we're looking at the data to see if the support we're giving your children is working or not. So we're progress monitoring that to see what's happening. So, at the school level, I know I was at a meeting today with principals, and they were talking about how they're celebrating the progress students are making related to the interventions they're doing on Achieve 3000 and different small groups they were having in the classroom. So as children are making progress, they're kind of graphing it as a class and doing, rewards based on that and celebrating that as a class. So I know that is happening across the district. But then if there's no progress, asking why. So asking questions when there is little or no progress, because, we're telling you as a district, right? Like, this is the problem. This are the things we're doing to help with that. So why, as a parent, or family member, I would think, well, why is there no progress happening then? And that's a valid question that you should ask if that's happening. And then really having a list of specific questions to ask about your child's progress, because sometimes I have 2 children as well in first and third grade. So sometimes I know when I get into a conference, I forget all the things I wanted to say. I forget all the questions that I had, and people are telling me all this stuff, and I can't always remember or speak to it how I want. So I really like to that's kind of like my personal advice, is really to bring a list of specific questions And, even based from this presentation today or from things you've been hearing or the data that you've seen come home or, grades, things like things your children are saying, whatever specific questions you want to know and ask about, I would bring as a list, because that helps me. So kind of a little tip that's helped me. There. All right. Okay. And then how can you really learn more about MTSS, or that multi-tiered system of supports that is in place at a school, and your child's progress? Like I said, the first line of defense is your child's teacher. There's also a school counselor or administrator who can plan a meeting to kind of get a team together to discuss any concerns that you have at the school level. I am available for any questions. I think, as Angela said at the beginning of the presentation, we're going to start answering some now, but for in future, I can put my email in the chat box, and anything if you're not getting the answer that you want from your school, or you have additional questions that you feel like your school is not able to answer, I definitely can be that next line of to help guide you in the right direction. If it's not me, but I can definitely guide you in the right direction. There also is a website from the University of South Florida. We partner with them for this whole MTSS. There's a project. It's called the Problem Solving Response to Intervention Project, and they really help districts throughout Florida with getting this system in place, helping schools and supporting schools. And so they do have a website. If you you can click on it from this link, or you can put in USF MTSS or Problem Solving Response to Intervention USF, and a variety of parent resources are available, and this is the link to it. There's also on that site, there are parent brochures and intervention apps, and I'm going to put some of them in the chat when I click out of this presentation. I can add some so that you can have access to them. And I know right now everything is online and virtual, but there are some good intervention apps related to either academic interventions, psychological or social emotional interventions, and also student engagement or organization interventions. So I'm going to put a list of those and a parent brochure to kind of explain deeper, kind of like that you could have a takeaway to have some information about MTSS as well. So I do have that available. I will put those in the chat. I think I went through that kind of fast. But let's see, I'm going to stop sharing and then open up the chat. Okay, I see that Stacy has already put my email in there. And so Stacy, I don't know if you want to, are there questions that I can get into?
At this time, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask any additional questions if Stacy has not already answered them. And Stacy, if you've seen some that you were not able to answer, would you go ahead and ask them now to Amanda?
Well, I've addressed all of them. I'll update the email again because I sent it to a certain participant to specifically address her needs, but I'll copy and paste it and send it to everyone so they have this.
I do see one question, Stacy, that I want to, can I, because I see the IEP, one of the IEP questions.
IEP came up a couple times in the Q&A and in the chat. Just kind of want to know the difference, and then is everyone in tier 3 on an IEP, or if you're on an IEP, are you automatically in tier 3?
So that is a really good question. So yes, so this, like I said, this MTSS, or the multi-tiers of support that are available at a school, are available for all students, right? So, but yes, typically to get to the level of an IEP, you have definitely been exposed to different interventions. We've looked at the data and we've decided that you need more. So the person who has an IEP is getting tier 1, which is what everyone gets. They are still getting supplemental tier 2 interventions. Then they're also getting that additional layer, which is tier 3, those intensive interventions. And then they're getting an even more additional layer, like the cherry on top, are the ESE services or the IEP. So it's in addition to all these layers of support that we give in the MTSS process. That's what the IEP is. Okay. And like I keep saying, it's not just for academics, right? These are services that are related to academic, behavior, social, emotional, all different kinds of things. So I know I did some of the examples were around academics, but I did want to kind of keep throwing that out there because just so you know that there are services available for all these areas and mental health and everything at your school. So please ask if you have any needs in those areas.
That is so good to know. So
I did
thank
put
you.
I did
Yeah.
put both of our email addresses in the chat for
Okay.
anybody who does want to reach out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Preve, and Stacy, for being with us tonight. As they just, as we're going to reiterate, if you have any additional questions, please reach out and ask. We are here to support you, to inform you, to empower you, to partner with us in your child's education, because without you, we can't do it. And they're like the whole description of it is we threw out all these terms, and I'm sure you've
Right.
all heard tier one. Now you understand what it is. So help your friends, help your neighbors, help your other family members, and send them this link so that they can hear directly from Dr. Preve about all the interventions that are available for your child to get them on track if they are not. So with that, if we don't have any other questions.
I am going to real quickly, like I said, put that stuff. Let me
Okay, yes,
add
the
some stuff real
resources.
quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be patient with us. We're going to add some resources to the chat.
Yeah, I
As
actually.
she's adding them, we're going to make sure that you get it or take a picture with your cell phone. Sometimes that helps. If you want to
Yeah,
go
I
back, if you want to
actually.
go back to that screen, maybe that could help too, and then they can
Oh, okay.
snap a picture.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't see it letting me upload, but let me keep trying. I don't have that like little,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
mhm.
Yeah.
So, but
So
I can
right
always
there,
send something out, like you had said to or whatever. I have an act,
we can attach them to the recorded
perfect.
video and have it.
Perfect.
So go ahead and
And
snap a picture of that, families, parents, if you would please.
And to
Those were
Wanda, the recording is going to be on the YouTube site. So if you want to share with the parents that did not attend, it'll be available on the YouTube channel.
perfect.
all right. Say thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for that information. I've learned a lot, Dr. Preve. Thank you so much. Now I'm able
You're
to
welcome.
help other parents just based on what I've learned tonight. So if anybody has a question, you might be able to ask me, and I'll be able to answer, or I'll just turn it over to Dr. Preve
Yes,
and
yes. I definitely
you
want
know,
to answer
trust me.
anything because I want you guys to be informed. So, because I think when we all work together, that's how we get the best for students. So, anything like I said, and like Angela and Stacey have said, anything that you need, please reach out to us, and we can point you in the right direction. If we don't have the answer, we can point you in the right direction because that is the main goal of anyone here is to support your child and make sure we're all successful. So.
All right. Thank you again for being with us, and you all have a great evening. Good night.